Hello, I'm test driving a YouTube video of a step-by-step practice of making panniers. I'm a tinkerer by my time off, and I got frustrated that I didn't see a clear video that instructed people how to go literally step-by-step of how to do the panniers. So um, I'm going to attempt to do that if people are looking for something that's a little bit more explicit than just, oh hey, I kind of did this and here's a couple vague references. So I'm going to give that a shot. What I'm showing you here is one completed set using the Scoop Away buckets. Um, this is what I happen to have on hand, and as you can see, I've put the hooks on the top, bungeed them on. This is the rack I happen to have them on. This is a set by Bontrager, and it's the same exact rack here as on my husband's bike. And so these are rated for 55 pounds. These are steel. And with the buckets, as you'll see here, these will be designed in order that they will fit on the top. Everything is level. The intention is to be able to put an additional dry bag and bear can across the top of these as a platform if I need that additional space. The set I will be making today will be a little bit smaller because it's the buckets I have. And these happen to be, here's a plug for Costco, the Kirkland laundry detergent. They're a little bit smaller, but they will also be designed to sit flat across the rack, and it should be a pretty good fit. And so I figured that the hardware sent me back about $15. So what I have here is I have my cordless drill with the bit. I'll show you how that works in a minute. The hooks. I bought lock washers. I have the 1/4 inch flat washers. And I bought 2 sizes of fender washers so they fit inside, which I'll show you in a little bit. This has been invaluable to cut the plastic very neatly in a very tidy way. It's my Dremel with the cutoff bit. Got the extra drill bit there. I just happen to have a whole package of these small washers here, which I use to pad where the hook goes in order for it to have a kind of a spacer for the lid, so that there's enough room here. And so that's the parts list. Pretty simple. Just an FYI, I did look at the smaller hooks. I thought about going a little bit smaller. They have them, but there would have not been enough room inside for the fender washers to fit comfortably. And while they physically probably would have held the weight, it wouldn't have distributed the weight and the jostling of the stuff against the rack very well. So I went ahead and went back to a little bit bigger size. As an addendum, I did buy these in individual parts at one local hardware store, but I was able to buy packages of some of these things at a different one. It's just I live closer to this one, and I picked up the other set of materials at one that's closer to my work. So you have a couple different options and how they come. I did want to talk briefly about one of the decisions I made. I chose to go with, it's essentially a barrel bolt, but it's got a specialty name, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what they're called. But I decided to go with this, and as you'll see here, I have to flatten those out, so I hammer those down and make them flat, which just takes a minute to do. And I like these because this goes through the plastic, and the nut itself, the bolt itself does not rub specifically against the plastic, and then you double up when you put the bolt in, and so you have basically you're laminating the strength of this, and then the threads don't rub on the plastic, and it helps to distribute the weight And the idea is for the weight to get distributed out. The fender washer will help pick that up, distribute it against the plastic, and then it's distributed against the weight of the plastic through the hook itself when it's put on there. So this is an extra little thing that I decided to do where I didn't see some of the other designs. So it's just a little bit of thing that I decided to go ahead and put in there. One of the decisions you have to keep in mind is where you want the hooks on your bucket, depending on the shape. If you're using a round one, if you're using the rectangular long ones like I'm using with the kitty litter boxes, or if, like in this, we're using the Kirkland boxes, is you have to keep in mind is your foot stroke, because you want the top of the box with the lid. By the time we're done, it will be a little offset like this, and then with the lid, it will make it about level, about there. That's eyeballing it, of course. And then you have to keep in mind where you need the hooks, so where this will be for your foot stroke, because you have to take a look at that, and the pedal stroke, and then of course the size of your foot and the backspin that you'll need as your foot goes around. And so in this, I will probably offset that a little bit so that the edge, I'll set the front one probably 1.5 inches in from the front edge, so that the front edge of this is even with the front plate of the rack. And then in the back, it will probably be in about 3 inches from the back edge. And that'll give me a little slidey room as well, if necessary. And it also then puts the front weight on the stabilizer bar. And when I bungee it around, very much as I did on these. And if we take a look at the bungees, and now I have that attached around in the back here. And I may go back and retrofit, as I've seen some people do, where they have a spring in the back to keep it from bouncing. But for now, this should be a very effective method to keep it, and of course the weight will help hold it down. Another amendment I'm going to make is I am going to take some rubber tubing, cut it open, line the bottom, and then probably use electrical tape to hold it on to reduce rattling. I don't want it to rub and mar the paint on my bike rack. Now what I will do, I don't have a great angle for this, but I just wanted to roughly demonstrate, is I'll bring this over here, and with the first one, I will give it a good look at where I want this to sit. And again, I will approximate this. And where I want that front hook to hang, that will wind up being about 2 inches from the front. And that will be about 3 inches from the back. And again, you'll need to look at that and roughly identify that. Once you've established about where you want the hooks to go, how you'd like them to sit on your bicycle, is that you need to now know where to cut everything out. So for me, just a permanent marker, and to set it up how I had the template, see that it's square. If you're one of those people who really likes things even, then you can go ahead and take a look at that, and you can measure those things. I found when I did the other, that was very effective, because the marks actually come down here and I'm going to have to cut through that. I went ahead and transferred that measurement down to the underside of this particular lip. Again, depending on which bucket you have, you may need to take a look at how that's going to look. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can cut these out. When I first started, and I was just figuring out how this was going to work, I happen to have a coping saw. And I found the coping saw was a pretty good little tool here to cut through the plastic. It also gave me a nice straight line of how I wanted to look at that. I have a straight handled a straight handled hacksaw that just it's the single blade, that would be very, very effective if you just had a simple hacksaw blade without a handle on it. Just something that made a nice simple cut. I happen to have a Dremel. Oh, I wanted to amend just for a second as well. If you really had nothing more sophisticated, this is really all, if you're patient, all you need is just a basic knife. Because I found the first time out, I made the initial straight cuts with this, and I just took my knife and I just very carefully guided and was able to cut through the plastic and then basically snap it off. So I just cut it front and back. So you don't have to have sophisticated tools for this. But for now, I'll show you a little bit of using the Dremel, and we'll go from there. So this one, take your time. You don't want to cut through the bucket, or you'll have words that won't be very not be fitting for a YouTube video. You'll be very irritated with yourself. So I'll just demonstrate a little bit of the cut. This is on low. As you can see, do not be in a hurry with the Dremel, or you will really regret the mistakes that you may make. Now, I won't subject you to the entire cutting of this, but you can get a good idea what that looks like. Now that I'm through making all the noise, you can take a look here. This particular plastic didn't cut off as nicely as the scoop away plastic did. It must be a slightly different recipe. So get it cleaned up. If you're really worried about it, you could probably take your file and get some of these things sort of tidied up if that's important to you, which is great. Totally get that. Now once you decide what you've done, you've got your marks made of the depth that you want, you know where level is going to be with the lid, you've got all that figured out, then your next step is you're going to want to mark where the holes are. And I've got this mess on here. Take off the labeling so it's easier to see. Should have had that done before. Figure out where you want that to be. And you've got those all pre-measured on the other side. Take your permanent marker because it's easier to see. Get it all squared up in that area so you can see that. Make good clear center marks in that. Because plastic, if you haven't drilled with plastic, used plastic before, it really does behave quite differently than wood. And when I put this together, I'll talk a little bit about some of the options that you'll see for this. Now, just to demonstrate, we've got the drill bit, got the barrel. It's the approximate size, okay, and I will have to ream it out a little bit, but I want this bit really, really snug. I don't want it loose in there at all. I want that I have to push it through and grip against that because that takes so much of the pressure off of the plastic, which is the point of having the fender washers and everything. So the next step we do is we come in here, get it on center, and put our hole in. But if you were careful, you could also do all of this by hand. I don't want to over drill that, so I'll test drive the holes. It's perfect. I'll need to remount. Like I said, I want it snug. Reach around here. There, that's actually how I prefer it. Really quite snug like that. So now it inserts in there just like I like. Take it back out. And now we start the process of putting this together. This is where things go quite quickly. This is kind of the fun part. Okay, so I want the fender washer in first, the big one. I like it on the bottom because that's where the most flex is going to be. Okay, so then I take that. And the second you have an audience, you become all thumbs. I just wanted to have a video where I had somebody walking me through it a little more thoroughly. That, as I start to put that together, that will all set a little better because that's very, very snug. So now I'll set my second one. And I use the smaller washer because it fits in there better against the big washer, and I'll show you in a second. The last set I had, they were competing sizes, and if you look in there, you'll see now you have a fairly large plate. Some people at this point actually put in a small piece of plywood or paneling to use to distribute the weight across the bucket. I decided to use the fenders just because they were easier, and you'll see in a minute when I install it, everything will be flush on the inside. Okay, so now here's the process of what it looks like through here. I'm just sticking through there, so I'll take a second here. Lay that down, and now I'll actually put the hook on it. So we take the hook, pushes it through here, and now here is the spacer part. I'll install it the first time and show you, and we'll see how many washers we need in the back. One of the tricks that we have here is I want everything flush in the back. Some of the things I've seen online is people just going willy-nilly what they want here, and they just stick whatever, and it's sticking way out. So I've got enough room in there for probably a couple of washers, and on my other one I bought a set that came with the extra nut, so I just put the extra nut so it was all flush so nothing caught. For me, if I'm taking my tent or my clothes or other items like that, I want nothing in there to catch. Heck, I don't want any kind of a wait a minute moment when I'm dealing with these things. I want all of that just really secure in there. So now I'm going to take one of the flat washers, because my original design I needed 3 of them. I'm going to take this flat washer and a lock nut, and I didn't do the lock nut on my other set because I had the extra nut on the inside, which locked it all in. The double between the barrel bolt and then the nut on the inside, or it's not a barrel bolt, it's a barrel nut, sorry. I didn't need to have that. So we'll take a look at this and see if this is going to be enough. And you know, it's the cool thing about these kinds of things is there's, you know, sometimes more than just one way to skin a cat. And this particular circumstance, I think this is going to be pretty effective. And I'll get that locked in there. And that depth is going to be perfect. That's absolutely perfect. It's flush, completely flush. It's driven all the way through. and it's locked down good and snug, which is the point. I don't want that moving. Now I am going to put one washer on the bottom of this. This was just to take a look, because I want this to have a little room for the lid. Something I had to do is I cut an extra slit in the other lid up at the top, because the kitty litter has the little flex spots on the top, and I cut a flex spot so that the lid would close comfortably, and that was one of them. The other one didn't need it. It closed just fine without the extra need for that. So now I'll take this, and that gives me some room up here. And if you need to, I mean, this is what's really flexible about it, is you can do that. I like the barrel nut. The threading, the wobbling around, the jouncing, I just didn't want any of that to be a problem with this. And if I really wanted to, and I needed more space, I can always go back and add another washer behind it, so that it's all set in there, the distance that I want. But this will now lock down real nice and snug, and just do exactly what I want that to do. Nothing to catch on the inside, and that's really nice and snug in there. And I'll do the same with the other, and set that in. We'll take a look at it here in just a moment when I get that set. Now this barrel bolt is, barrel nut's going to, this is the sticky one I had earlier. One way I've solved that, I had a little bit of that problem earlier, is to just moisten the threads, and sometimes that'll be just enough to encourage it. I'll show you this in just a minute. Yeah, and I can show you now, after installing all of the hardware, getting it all put together, getting it cut out just thus and so. You can see that as we come across here, we look right across the top of that. That's level, right across there. Now you have a large platform once you get the other one installed, being able to put bear cans or bags or even another bucket or two across the top, and so the sheer volume of that doesn't have to be huge. What's nice about this particular bucket versus the Tidy Cat one, or excuse me, the Scoop Away, is that this particular handle goes the other direction. And so once I get to where I'm going and I take off my stuff, I can grab that by the handle. You can see I can just pick up and take my gear with me. Very easy to reinstall. Sits right where I want it to. I have the hooks designed to bump up against that to give it some extra structure right there. Come down here, leans against that on the inside, and now all I need is a couple bungees to wrap around that and to hook it on, hold it down, keep it from bouncing. And now I have a sturdy, these buckets were entirely free to me. I picked them up from the kitchen at work. They weren't using them, and so for probably, because I had some of the hardware here, probably all told I'm into the hardware for under $30 for 4 panniers that will last for years and years. So now just real quick, over here to show you, and I need both hands to take that off. Hang on for a second. So now with the lid off, I can bring you inside here and show you those in here. It's completely flush. I'll bring it from above and show you, prove it to you. It is entirely flush. Nothing to catch your gear on, giving you lots of room, and it's just very, very simple, very, very sturdy. Not exactly sure what the volume is. It's 153 cubic inches for per gallon, and so I haven't figured out how many gallons this is, but between each pannier and then what I can store on top, it should be equivalent to what I'm able to carry with my backpack, because with my backpack, it is 3,500 cc, and then the bear can holds, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 gallons, so 3 to 450. So I carry with me over 4,000 cubic inches of space, and as you can see, I should be able to have an equivalent to that. I hope this has answered some of your questions. If you have any questions, please just comment on my space. I'll be able to try to answer your questions. Thank you for watching. It's a nice rainy day project. Enjoy your day.